Yes.
I don't speak in that process, so we have.
Some people say we have.
Yeah, it's really great. It's like,
The things that she does, same thing.
Yeah.
Is it
I don't know. It's like we're getting in.
our Wi-Fi is down now? So I look at it, it's because it's cold.
Yeah. So for those of you that are online, did you have any maybe different steps to log in today, in terms of the Zoom meeting?
Hey, Andy, this is Brian. Yeah, it wanted me to like log in to verify myself, which I hadn't had to do before, and it sent me a code. So I mean, it was an extra step, indeed. Yes.
I had to do the same, and I've got at least one message from somebody that was going to be here remotely saying, "Hey, I can't get in." And this is what it's doing. It says, "Sign into the account associated with the email that was invited as panelist," and I think that's the same one I got, but I was able to work around that. Right. So, I'm going to text this person, and then for future reference for everybody in the room that's on the call. If you go to our website and find the TPC meetings, and you can get there too. That's the public way to get in there. We can see who's out there in the public, and we'll promote you back into where you need to be. So right. if you're ever not here,
that's what I'm gonna tell Nicole. Send her the link.
Okay, you can send her.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Mayor Chapman had an issue, so he couldn't be here. So I'm filling in for him. And so just welcome to everybody. I hope we can get everybody working online here. Andy, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Bullitt County.
Here.
City of Charlestown. Here. Thank you for being here. Thank you. City of Jeffersontown.
Here, Matt Minier.
Oh, that's all you, Matt. Thanks for joining us, Matt. City of Jeffersonville. City of New Albany.
Here.
Hi, Claire.
Hi.
City of Shively. City of St. Matthews. Clark County. Floyd County.
Nick Creevy's here. I have an early out though. I'll be out soon.
Okay, thanks for being here. NDOT.
Kathy McCallup's here.
Kathy.
Julie Feltner.
Hi, Nicole. Hi, Julie. Who else are we missing? Jefferson County League of Cities, Mayor Chapman could not be here today. Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
Cedro Delgado here.
Cedro. Louisville Metro Government. I think Deputy Mayor George is probably on our way to join us online momentarily. Anybody from the Regional Airport Authority? I don't believe so. How about Oldham County? Town of Clarksville?
Kevin Beatty.
Hi, Kevin. And Tark.
How you doing?
How you doing? Since we have a few around the room, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves since it's a new year. For those that don't know, I'm Andy Rush, Transportation Director here at KIPTA.
Greg Burris, I'm the Community Outreach Specialist with KIPTA.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Jennifer Wilson in the Community and Economic Development Division of KIPTA.
Ethan Troggy, CD Planner, KIPTA. Justin Duncan, Senior Grant Administrator with KIPTA.
Alicia Harper, Director of Community and Economic Development, KIPTA.
Deal Data, City of Charlestown, Street Supervisor.
I'm Brady Hill, Transportation Planner.
Remember Sally Sakaifi, Commissioner of Planning and Research.
Spencer Williams, Transportation Planner, KIPTA.
Elijah Miles, I'm a Transportation Planner with KIPTA as well.
Jared Daly, Executive Director, KIPTA.
I'm all KRTC District Dialogue.
Ida Kopikta, Director of Planning.
Brendan Kahn with Strand Associates.
And Keith Griffey from Bullitt County. All right.
Thank you all for joining us, and hopefully Deputy Mayor George will join us shortly. Brian Davis is also in the room from Louisville Metro. What do you call it these days? Louisville Metro Planning and Design, or is it?
Office of Planning.
Oh, well, that's simple. Y'all simplified.
That's right. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Brian.
All right, the November 2024, that was the last TPC meeting, the minutes, we need a motion to approve the minutes. I'll make a motion, is there a second?
I think we did. Cedro, was that you?
Just holler out.
Yeah, sorry. Second, yes.
Thank you, Cedro.
So we got a motion and a second, all in favor? Say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Looks like it. All right, moving on, public comment, Greg?
All right, did not have any public comments at the beginning before the meeting, and do not see any in the Q&A, but if we have any more, I'll bring that up in other business.
All right, thank you, Greg. The public involvement report?
Yes.
Greg?
So this is the public involvement from November and December, since we did not have a December meeting. Looking first at our website analytics, main page for transportation. In November, we had 168 visitors. In December, we had 143 visitors. Our transportation improvement program page saw 155 visitors in November and 112 visitors in December. Our Metropolitan Transportation Program page saw 45 visitors as well as 34 visitors in December. Those numbers are down a little bit compared to October, but that's not uncommon just because we don't have a whole lot going on. Didn't have a lot of people driving to the website. Take a look at the numbers for social media. November and December, we had 10 posts over the 2 months for over 2,947 impressions for Facebook, 49 engagements. Instagram, 11 posts, 551 impressions, 46 engagements. That's up from compared to October, which is good. And Twitter saw the biggest jump, 9 posts, 4,381 impressions. That was bolstered a lot by our call for projects, which I'm getting ready to talk about right now. That was our public comment opportunity. So that comment, when it was, I talked about this in November, we provided, this is a new opportunity we did, where we provided the public a list of all the projects that were asking for funding for this new tip that's coming up. And Brady's going to discuss that here in a little bit, but it was very popular. It did a great job, but the comment window, we ran it from November the 18th through December the 2nd. We collected 113 comments, 179 project likes. That's one of our more successful campaigns since I've been here. So that was really good to see. On social media, we did 3.2 thousand impressions organically and 10.7 thousand impressions with 213 link clicks using paid advertising through Facebook. Our email campaign went out to 1.6 thousand people, 597 opens and 106 link clicks there. So what did we hear? The Louisville Downtown Transit Center was the most commented and the most liked new project. And you can see some of the comments that we received from there that kind of paints a good picture of the comments that we got regarding that one. That I think had 34 likes. And I believe, I don't remember how many comments we had. I think we had about 30 comments on that. For the existing projects, Ohio River Valley Northeast Bike Pit Improvements Phase 1 and the one-way street conversions to two-way Phase 1 received the most likes in existing projects. The one-way street conversions and North Hubbards received the most comments in existing projects. And then you can see some of the comments here, give you a good impression of what we heard for those two projects. I think each of those got about 6 or 7 comments apiece. Or they got 6 comments apiece. That's right. And then finally, obviously with the holidays in November and December, did not get out and do too much events and outreach, but we did make it out to the Kentucky Association of Government Communicators monthly meeting, as well as the Middletown Chamber of Commerce's meeting. That wraps up my report. I will take questions if anyone has any.
Any questions or comments? Greg, I appreciate, and I'm sure everybody else does, but work you put in on those, in the graphics, I've
Oh,
always liked
thank
that too, so that's, yeah, really good to see those kind of reports, so thank you very much.
So notable, if I might, if I can, not sure if the room knew this, but Greg is now the new president of the Kentucky Association of Government Communicators. So shout out to Greg for representing KIPTA on that and his counterparts around the public sector.
A few people here can.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very good, well,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's great, all right. We'll move on to the TPC Officers Committee nomination. Andy's gonna kind of fill you all in on what we did and we'll kind of go from there.
Yes, thanks, Keith. So the KIPTA TPC bylaws, they state that that in January of each year, we're to elect new officers, and also on the bylaws, it states that the chairman of the TPC, or the person that has first right refusal for that spot, would be the highest ranking member or officer on the KIPTA Board of Directors. That's in the MPO region. Remember, KIPTA is rural and urban, so the highest ranking that's in the KIPTA region. This year, that person is Commissioner Jack Kaufman from Clark County. And so Jack Kaufman we've requested and we've asked Mr. Kaufman if he'd like to be our chairman for this year, and he said yes. He said he would. Okay, so we've got our chairman for this upcoming year. So our outgoing chairman is Mr. Mayor Byron Chapman, and then Keith Griffey is our outgoing vice chair. But we are in need of a vice chairperson for calendar year 2025. And so Keith, you want to talk a little bit about the nominating committee that met recently?
Yeah, Andy and myself, Mayor Chapman and Deputy Mayor George were a part of the nominating committee. I will tell you, I've been a part of these in the past, and there was a great discussion on this. I would like to place in the nomination Deputy Mayor Nicole George to be the vice chair. And I will tell you that when we talked about it, she has some great ideas, some great insight, very inquisitive about where we go and how we do things. And I think she'd be a great choice. So I would like to put her name as a nomination. I know we can take other nominations, but that's who the committee has recommended. That's who we would nominate. And I would entertain a motion to cease nominations and by acclamation bring Deputy Mayor George in as the vice chair. Oh, I see a hand go. Oh, no, did I see it? No, I'm looking.
So are there any other nominations, I guess, would be the first question.
Seeing none, is there a motion to accept her by acclamation, the deputy mayor by acclamation?
So.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, having nothing else nobody else to come forward. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Deputy Mayor George, you are now the vice chair of TPC. So you'll get the gavel when the chairman doesn't show up like I'm doing today. Thank you very much. And I will say,
I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Yeah, and the ideas that she has, she's reaching out, she's making it regional. She's already reached out to me to come to Bullitt County. As soon as there's a thaw and there's not ice on all the roads, we will give her a tour of that. I think this is a great move for Metro. Andy and I talked a little bit about this before. We haven't had somebody from Metro in a while in some of these positions, and the deputy mayor will be a great asset. So thank you for stepping up and congratulations. All right, move on to the next. The Indiana quarterly meeting. Brady.
Held our winter dedicated quarterly meeting for Indiana on January 13th. So a little over a week ago. At that meeting, there were a couple of main topics the group discussed, the main one being the Mount Tabor Road project, which is New Albany's construction project that was programmed for this year of $4.6 million. That project is not going to reach the required letting dates of either April or May in this fiscal year. What that essentially means is that leaves $4.6 million of the Indiana MPO dedicated funding budget, which is around over 70% of the year's sub allocation, unprogrammed. However, if you this group may remember in November, we proposed a backup plan to reallocate some of this funding if the project were to fail towards a variety of other projects. So that process has already begun. Many of these projects have either already had group 3 funds moved to them in the tip via administrative modification, or are in the process via the current Amendment 8 to have funds reprogrammed to them before the end of the fiscal year so that we can recoup some of this funding that is now available from the Mount Tabor Road project. Just as a reminder, this is the list of projects that I presented in November that the TPC approved to reallocate some of this available funding towards. See, there are many projects on there. Several of them are existing projects. Several of them are new projects that are have been requested as a part of the call for projects process. And so these would be a recommendation of implementing PE phases or planning phases towards these new projects as well. So that was what was approved by the group in November. So with that as a basis, the Indiana quarterly group now had almost $2 million that is still unprogrammed even after all those projects have their funding additions to decide what to do with the rest of the funding. So the recommendations made by the group at the quarterly meeting was to provide an additional $25,000 of SDBG funds to Clark County's Memphis Blue Lick Road Improvements Project for their planning phase for fiscal year 25, as well as provide $100,000 to help partially fund a planning phase or planning study associated with TARC's potential downtown transit center project to provide a better estimate of where such a transit center might be and what the costs might be and give a better idea of what a future construction cost would be for that project. So the recommendation is to fund those 2 projects at the funding amount you see there. And then the remaining unprogrammed balance of the $1,835,073 in fiscal year 25 will go to INDOT to help fund an existing project within the KIPTA region. The specific project that money would go to is to be determined, haven't officially decided on that yet. But what we'd be requesting is the TPC to allow KIPTA staff to work with INDOT and work with the LPAs to determine which projects or projects that money would be best allocated towards. So those are the 3 funding changes that have action requested to approve for adjustments to Indiana fiscal 25 MPO dedicated balance.
Thank you, Brady. I guess we need a motion so we can, and then if there's any discussion, we can go forward. So a motion to accept. Can you reread that, Brady, for us?
Sure. Motion to accept additional MPO dedicated funding program to the Clark County Memphis Blue Lick Roadway project and the TARP Downtown Transit Center project, as well as permission to for KIPTA staff to work with INDOT and Indiana LPAs to determine the remaining $1.8 million of how that should be reprogrammed.
Okay. We need a motion for what Brady just said. And I won't make you say it again.
So moved.
We have a motion. Thank you, Eddie. Is there a second? We have a second. Are there any discussion? Questions? Discussion?
I'll just say this is making the best of the situation. It really is. We're kind of in a tricky spot here, and so appreciate everybody's willingness to work with one another, and hopefully silver lining is the funding of some of these projects. Yeah.
Seeing no other discussion, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, Brady. And you are up for the call for projects.
Yes, so no presentation with this one, just a brief update from the TPC. In December, on December 9th, December 16th, and January 17th, KIPP staff held the TTCC call for project working group. Had 3 different meetings to help provide a recommendation for the call projects, of which project should receive funding or not, in which fiscal years and which funding sources should receive the funding. So as a result of those 3 meetings, that group has come to a consensus recommendation, which will be provided to the TTCC in February. The TTCC will have an opportunity to review that recommendation, make any adjustments as they see appropriate. And then that recommendation from the TTCC will then go to the TPC in February. So you can expect a longer, more detailed presentation on what the recommendation is for the call for projects next month. And that's really all I have, unless there are any questions from the TPC.
Any questions? I will say, some of us in this room were part of this committee. Brady, you and Andy, everybody in the room, Spencer, all you guys did a great job. Brady, I know, he was the quarterback, and you did a great job with it. I think it was a really good committee. I think we came up with some good stuff, and we appreciate your all's hard work.
Thank you.
All right, number 8. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any other questions or comments? Moving this thing right in.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, the next one up is Chris. You've made it. Amendment 8.
I do have a barely a presentation, but there's an important table. So I'm gonna give y'all just a quick update on Amendment 8. Most of you know that's underway to the MTP and fiscal year 23 to 26 tip. Got our timetable here with some of the dates in red, which are either in progress or about to be in progress. So that's what I'm going to talk about. This one's a full amendment. It has a total of 69 new and existing projects needing updates, which is potentially the biggest amendment that I've worked on since I started. 45 of the projects are from KYTC, and most of these are resulting from the legislative priority updates described in the 6-year highway plan. I'm going to share more details on these projects next month, but so far, Amendment 8 has air quality activities wrapping up this week, and the public comment period is set to start on Monday. The IAC meeting was on January 13th, and we did have a brief follow-up led by the EPA on some air quality modeling budgets that took place this past Tuesday, the 21st. All of those notes will ultimately be in the full packet for everyone to look at if we choose to. With the way that the weather's gone lately this winter, we opted to do a virtual public meeting. That's going to be on February 4th from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And then our TTCC recommendation and TPC approval are going to be requested next month at the February committee meetings. Then federal air quality conformity determination is going to follow that. No action requested at this time.
Any questions or comments for Chris?
Thanks to all the LPAs and the state DOTs and TARC for getting information into Chris. It's been she said this is a monster of an amendment, just a monster.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the largest amendment of all time, but it might as well be. And so hopefully everything's in good shape and we'll get it, plan to get it approved next month, pending the public review coming up.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Chris. And Spencer, you are up. Safe Streets for All.
Yep. Just some highlights and updates. The SS4A
grant is moving along schedule. The consultants currently finalizing the draft action plans. And they are continuing the data analysis. You all should have gotten a invite to a virtual meeting that's on Monday, February 3rd. That's an everybody meeting. It's virtual at 10 a.m. And it's to go over project progress and the next steps. So kind of just, what they've done so far, what they've done since the last, kind of quarterly update meeting in November, and then what kind of comes next for them and for everyone in the room. And then after that, starting the next day on February 4th, we will be having the individual stakeholder meetings like we did in the past. That's where each group will go over, updates for your plan specifically. This is where, a lot of you all in this room were invited along with, people from your EMS, fire, police, etc. And at that one, they're going to be going over your all's draft and like the actual plans. They should have specific projects and treatments in there. They should have your, what's the word I'm looking for, Andy? The high injury networks.
Hydro networks, high crash intersections, etc. Yeah.
There'll be 3 days of meetings. The 4th and the 6th will be here at Get the Burger. And on the 7th, which is Friday, we'll have meetings over at Jeffersonville City Hall. And also,
on those meetings, I think we have responses from, 8 agencies. So I think we're missing, I think about 3 or 4 from the MPO side. The rural county judges, they all have they have got a conference that same week. So we're going to look for some alternative arrangements for them. But if you haven't responded or your agency hasn't responded to the 4th, the 6th, or the 7th, you pick, 4th or 6th over here, 7th over at Jeffersonville. Please do respond to that and reach out to Spencer or myself, and we can get you the invitation resent to you, whatever.
Yeah, if none of those work, we can try to work something out, whether it's a virtual meeting or kind of like we're doing with the rural counties, like we can try to do it another day if we need to.
It looks like the 11th might be that alternate day.
Yeah.
That might help somebody out.
And then, I think we have a lot of the resolutions, but there's still a few places that haven't gotten the resolutions into either us or to Amy Williams from TSW or Rob Frazier at HDR. So if you got any help with those, we can help. We've got lots of different examples that Palmer's done around the state. So, it's not super difficult. We can tailor them to however anybody wants them.
And if that's a problem, don't worry. And the reason I say that is because likely at next month's TPC meeting and or board meeting, we will pursue a regional resolution. So as far as we're concerned, that would cover you to pursue some of the implementation dollars. Yeah. Is there a resolution that makes certain commitments? Yes, there will be. Is it better that it comes from your city or county? Maybe, probably, but you'll have one nonetheless.
Yep. And then lastly, it looks like kind of the preliminary schedule for when the implementation grants open around March 31st. And I think that they're going to go till about the mid to late May. It's not 100% yet, but that's what the consultants and some different people we're talking to are saying as far as when the likely opening of that occurs. So we're scheduled to be done with this by April 1st, so that'll be right there, right when it opens up. And then I imagine there'll be a lot more applications this year for the implementation, but we're still getting ahead of the game because there's one more year of applications next year. And like I know in Indiana, for example, like we're way ahead of the curve on our action plan grant, so we're going to get in it before even more applications come next year. So that'll be, as long as we're on schedule, should be right there when the window opens.
Those draft plans, like Spencer's saying, they should be in your hands really soon, and hopefully that can become the playbook. That can become the playbook of something that you prioritize as a city or county to pursue these dollars in April, or your own quick wins that might show up there, then you can do with local forces or, pursue bigger projects down the road, through KIPTA funding or from one of the respective states or HSFP dollars or what have you.
Yeah, and we'll have different, we'll have some different strategies too on maybe how best to apply for some of these dollars, like combining forces. Maybe there's a Southern Indiana, crosswalk fix and it's one big thing, or it could be just individualized, this Charlestown crosswalk intersection or this St. Matthews intersection. So we'll kind of see how it plays out, and sometimes the dollar amounts you're asking for can change. It might be easier counterintuitively to ask for a little bit more money because I think there's a floor. It's like 100,000 or something, and so it might make it easier to group them together if they're all really low cost.
Keep in mind, it's gonna be an 80-20, just like typical federal funding. But with it being a discretionary grant, I think for those on the Kentucky side, I see no good reason why we couldn't pursue those grant funds to help match. I see no good reason why we couldn't. It's not formula funds. It's a grant program, so it seems to fit. So that might be an option if you're looking to pursue that, especially for some of the smaller counties, given that there is a floor of small, you gotta have a project of a certain size to even apply. That either means one of two things. They have to come up with a lot of local funds that they may or may not have. They may have to pull together projects to say, hey, we're gonna fix lots of intersections, lots of guardrail across a multi-county region. But maybe it means that the match burden can be limited by a good number of that program.
And it seems from past experience, they tend to like when there's like a lot of regional cooperation. So like, if there's something that Fulton County's pursuing that also touches Shepherdsville and Washington, it's like, it could be really like a three-way joint.
And I think that's the way we would do those
Yeah.
things, because we have great relationships within that.
And that kind of shows it affects a lot more people
And maybe even at Spencer County.
yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit, I think, once everybody gets their action plans. I think there's lots of different ways to look into pursuing this, and once again, like Amy said, there could be in Indiana, going after the, what's it called, the community crossings over there. Something like that, we could be like, hey, I have this plan, I know that I'm not applying for SS4A money, but here's a low-cost thing that Charlestown needs. Here's where it's identified, here's why it's dangerous, but it could help in those ways too.
Can I ask a question about the meetings that are scheduled? Because I don't know that we sent it, I don't think I have. I don't know that Bullitt County has sent anything in on those. A lot of those dates I know we got fiscal court one of those days. How difficult do I just need to reach out to you to try to figure out where we can fit in on this? Because we've got some trainings and some things, like you said, we've got some other things going on that week, so. Do I just reach out to you, Spencer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can reach out to me and I can,
Kind of see.
figure out what works best,
Yeah.
Like Katie said, we got that, I know we've already kind of confirmed with the consultants that, they're pretty free on February 11th. But we
You
could,
just sent one out, Keith.
Okay.
I think it's February 6th
Yeah,
at 1:30 to 2:30.
We've got you at 1:30 on February 6th. Yep.
Okay.
While we're talking about it, let's go through the list. Why not? Shepherdsville's meeting is at 10:30 on February 4th. Oldham County, Deputy Judge Ender, the meeting is scheduled here at KIPTA 10:30 on February 6th. Clark County's meeting is scheduled at KIPTA at 11:30, just after the one before then. Then Bullitt's is at 1:30, and then at 2:30 that afternoon on February 6th, that's where we're gonna meet with the folks at Louisville Metro. And then on Friday, February 7th, currently there are 3 scheduled, the first of which is at 8:30 a.m. over at Jeffersonville City Hall, and that's with Floyd County. At 9:30, Jeffersonville, home game for them. And then at 2:30 on Friday afternoon, J-Town's gonna come over to Jeffersonville, so they're gonna cross some boundaries, across the river to come meet with us over there, and that's perfectly fine. And so there's plenty of room available to, especially on the 4th and the 7th, Tuesday and Friday. But if that county judges conference or otherwise is a problem, maybe we certainly can move it around. And I think the 11th is looking like it's gonna be the backup date for these.
I think that'll work. It didn't pop up on my calendar here. That's why I was like, did I send this or not?
I don't have it in front of me, so.
Yeah, I think the 6th will be okay. That should work.
Okay.
Yeah, we can figure it out too, if you have any issues,
Yeah, I'll just holler at you.
Alright.
Great.
Good. Any more questions?
All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you, Spencer. Felicia, you are up. Reconnecting Communities Grant.
So, the Reconnecting Communities Grant, I'll chime in here first and give Felicia a shout out in the process. So, Reconnecting Communities, pilot program is something we've talked about a little bit about here in the past, and it's kind of been a joint venture between not only KYTC and KIPTA, KIPTA MPO, but also the KIPTA MPO and the KIPTA SEDS division. So, Felicia and Dustin have been carrying the torch for us here at KIPTA, and we appreciate that, and chasing the grant. So, Felicia, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I just wanna, so we were awarded the Department of Transportation. The total project cost was 29 million. We were awarded $14,864 for the U.S. Department of Transportation. The grant program, which is the state program, awarded $13,377. So KYTC's portion will be $817,520, and local metro is $668,880. So that's taken a $30 million project and almost 50% being funded by a grant. So it's been a great partnership between our divisions as well as KYTC and local metro to get that submitted.
Tom, if you don't mind, can you kind of talk a little bit about the series of projects, just in general terms?
Yeah, I would say a couple of years ago, we had some local concerns that, kids couldn't get from the area, the Portland neighborhood, the Landon Park, where they have a park and a baseball field, because the interstate was in the way. And it's really scary to go under the 22nd Street interchange to get to Landon Park. And, we, as a state DOT, we understand that those issues, the kind of barriers that an interstate or something will put them in a community, but we don't really have sources of money that mitigate that kind of stuff. But the bipartisan infrastructure law that came out a few years ago offered new sources of funding that were unique. And one of them was Reconnecting Communities dollars, which is supposed to essentially mitigate or help mitigate where the state and federal government have gone in and put infrastructure that kind of busts up communities. And so this funding called Reconnecting Communities is a way to try, use money to mitigate that stuff. And so the cabinet really came to KIPTA about a year ago and asked, hey, could we have some planning study money to, look at this and try and develop a project? And, we had that discussion and the MPO agreed. And so the cabinet took on this unique study, which is still underway, looking for ways to, connect the communities, Portland and Shawnee to the riverfront, which are all cut largely the interstate, but also flood walls and railroads and all kinds of stuff. And, that's a great picture there. But the bottom line is, our vision was maybe through this planning study, we could develop some scopes of work that we could apply for this Reconnecting Communities money. And what we found out last summer on short notice is that that money was all going to be given away. The next 3 or so years of that money was all going to be given away by like September the 1st. And we had to apply for that money very quickly. So there was folks in our grants office in Frankfurt that were very, very interested in this project because they were familiar with the project area. And so we developed a team to basically, based on the study, develop some real high priority action items that we might be able to fund with this grant money should it be awarded. And we really had to rush and go talk to local officials. We had to rush and have some public involvement. We had to rush and find out how might we find match money, which was with a lot of help from KIPTA. And so all this package came together in just a couple of short months. And we applied for the money, our one shot at this money, and it's about a $30 million project focused on not only stuff we identified in the study, but needs that have gone unmet since and have been talked about in studies since the 1980s, but have never been funded. And so the neat thing is we applied for the money, and we learned fairly quickly from KIPTA that they got the match money, which is about 13 or plus $million. And so the only remaining piece that we were waiting for is the Reconnecting Communities federal dollars. The other 13 or 14 million dollars is going to be awarded, and we found that out last week. So the bottom line is there's about close to $30 million that in this partnership between KIPTA and KYTC, and of course Metro, the cabinet's going to be able to lead a design and construction project to address these high priority issues that keep the Portland from getting to the riverfront. And some of the highlights are we would essentially streetscape 22nd Street as it leads under the interchange and make it more friendly so that people can get to the ballpark. And we would clean up the paths getting to Landon Park, the surface sidewalks. We would also replace, there's 2 pedestrian bridges that are horribly outdated. We would replace both of those. And then we would also, there's a vehicular entrance to Landon Park that also leads to the McAlpin Dam. And that entrance, we got money to clean that up and also do edge treatments along Interstate 64, which if you've ever driven this part of the interstate, it's really rough looking like that. And so part of the grant money can go to cleaning that up and rebuilding the right-of-way fence and putting in maybe more modern landscaping that might help with noise and help with aesthetics. And so we're really excited about this project. One other thing I would mention is that I think we're anticipating maybe going to construction by 2028. And the neat thing is that most of these improvements we identified are on existing state right of way. And so we think we can do them very quickly without having to get entangled in right of way acquisitions and utility relocations. So hopefully 2028 is a legitimate construction opportunity for us, and we'll get it pushed through. The neat thing beyond that is that the larger planning study for reconnecting is still underway, and we're still identifying, making partnerships and identifying other projects that might use grant money in the future. So it's a real cool opportunity, and I hope I didn't speak too long.
No,
but that was it's a mouthful. It's a big project, and it took a lot of people with their eye on the ball to really make this happen, and it's really amazing. So cool.
It seemed to be an incredible, just based on the list of the projects that, let's say, weren't funded. It seemed to be an incredibly high demand for all the reasons Tom was saying, that hey, they kind of jumped the gun on this one and said we're going to hurry up and fund all 3 years. 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, and so to get selected amongst that giant number of projects and that insane amount of dollars of projects was pretty cool. Y'all may have seen Greg on TV about it even the other day.
It was very newsworthy. I've gotten contacted by, was interviewed by 2 different news stations, and trying to get, I think, on the schedule for one more, but yeah, we run DRB as well as HAS.
And I think one more thing is like next week, I think, HIPAA and the cabinet are gonna meet with the USDOT welcome team, I think, or something like that, to start talking about, how is this project gonna, how are we gonna get the money and put it under agreement, and then how is the cabinet gonna, start the design process and all that. The cool thing is that when we all put our heads together and put our support letters and everything together, the cabinet really pledged to really put the full force of project development and construction, our resources on the project. So we think we got the right, we got resources and we got money, and I think we're heading in the right direction. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I hope it's good. Sign of things to come. Or at least where they came from, I hope.
And Deputy Mayor George, you got a question or comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, I could not be more excited about this project. It will truly be transformative, and really reflect such, an amazing partnership in what can be done with local, state, and federal efforts. Two things. One is Metro Parks part of the planning? Is there anything, since so much of this really involves connection to Lanham, is there anything that you need from Metro Parks, or have they been helpful, and are they informed and up to date?
They are informed and up to date, and as a matter of fact, the study that KIPTA is funding that's underway now really spent the better part of the last 2 months having individual meetings with big stakeholders, like Metro Parks, like Metro Public Works, like railroad companies, like the Corps, MSD, we even met with the West End Opportunity Partnership, which is in the TIF district folks. And our goal is to get the message out there. We met with all the neighborhood associations. So yes, we talked to parks and lots and lots of other big stakeholders. And the next step of the process is developing concepts that from the needs we heard. And that's where we're at now. We're in the early concept development phase, and I would think that in the springtime, we'll put that, take those concepts back out to the public and see what they think. And we're excited about that too, because I think that the project team is, even in this early part of project development, we're seeing additional opportunities where we might be able to say, restore the Louisville Loop path, where it's washed out near Shawnee Park. That we think we have a concept for that, that meets a lot of other needs, not just that path. So, and we think it might fit with a couple of grant programs. So we're working hard, and we got a great consultant, HDR, working with us, and look forward to sharing maybe some concepts in the spring with everybody.
Well, yeah, a couple things. One, I did not know that about the loop that had been washed out at Shawnee, so my ears just perked up. That was the most exciting piece. And then, yes, I know there's been tremendous community engagement efforts. I just wanted to double back and make sure that, like, yes, Parks was contributing, that they're aware, and so that's all really encouraging to hear. Finally, I guess I want to say I need to check in on some of the pieces Greg has done, because I have not seen those, but I'm wondering if we have like a one pager that kind of talks about in a very easy to understand terms what community can expect. For instance, like with edge treatments, what that includes. Like, is that in one document somewhere that we're sharing out with the public?
It is, we have a one pager for our grant, which we can share. We can share with KIPTA, and maybe they can share with other folks. I think it's all kind of cat's out of the bag, and the award's been awarded, so everybody is welcome to see what we applied for, and so I can share that with everyone. So in the edge treatments, I to be specific would be a little bit difficult at this time, but we know that the needs are out there, and so our approach would be, we know we need to rebuild the right-of-way fence, we know we need to do better edge treatments, maybe some better landscaping, get rid of the old.
That's right. I think the way you said it was perfect. Like, someone like me clearly understands that, but I just think having that on, like, these are examples of what this could entail, could be helpful for community to understand.
We do have some pretty good pictures of stuff like that. But in the design process, which will come in the next couple of years, what we would anticipate is going back out to the public and saying, here's the options, and here's what we are allowed to do with this money, but here's what we're not allowed to do. Like, for example, we may or may not be able to do sound walls, but we might be able to put landscaping in there that has a really good sound buffering effect. So, these are the things that need to be explored in much more detail in the design process, which will obviously include more public involvement and more local official input.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all for a lot of information there. Appreciate that. Thank you. Chris, the administrative modification 19 and 20.
Two administrative modifications to talk about since we did not have a December meeting. These are both pretty big, especially 19. Quick disclaimer, I do have a QR code right here, and there is a link for those that need it. This is in the packet as well. There's a button for 19, and then there's a separate button for 20. And if anyone really wants to look at a hard copy who's in the room, I have those up here. But I really, me personally, it's not a KIPTA policy, it's a CRIS policy. I try not to waste too much paper if I can. So with that said, what can I tell you guys about these? 19, it's important to know that that one is done. That one was sent off to KYTC and NDOT for the STIP updates back in December, but I'm presenting it to you all today because I didn't have an opportunity to do that. Number 20, this is still a draft. I was waiting and I have heard just a few last minute clarifications this morning. So I will be sending that off soon, but this one is still a draft and the highway departments don't have the final copy just yet. Okay, so we've got our qualifying criteria. Overall, most of you guys are familiar with this. Overall, admin mods are for the minor changes. They don't require TPC approval, but we do make a point to share with the TPC. These are changes that do not require public comment periods or our air quality conformity analysis, mainly just funding changes and phase shifts and updates like that. I've got a summary of admin mod 19. And again, this is a very large administrative modification. So it was a bit of a challenge to try to fit it all into a 10-minute presentation. If anyone has any questions, if I go too fast, please feel free to let me know. Because otherwise I didn't think you guys would like to see a 2.5-hour presentation on these. So I'll start with NDOT. We've got a few tip funding updates, phase shifts, and open to public date updates for the most part. Pretty standard admin mod changes there. And then I'll stay in Indiana. I try to keep the state separate now for people's ease. Our additional Indiana projects, we have a few in New Albany, Clarksville, and Clark County. These are all your standard tip funding, open to public date updates for the most part. But I did want to highlight, we have 3 projects each that are new to us, 3 from Sellersburg and 3 from Jeffersonville. We don't get a lot of projects in the tip from these cities, so I think that's kind of exciting to have something to include for both of those jurisdictions. They're all safety projects. I think one of the Jeffersonville one I put as a group project under the bike ped category, but it was a safety project as well. They're all getting HSIP funding. So that's pretty excited for those jurisdictions. Next, I'll move to Kentucky. Louisville Metro, we just needed to add a new state ID to the Reimagine 9th Street project. We have 2 Middletown projects that we're actually removing the funding from. And then we have our transit projects for the 5310. There's a handful of those: Blue River Services, ElderServe, TARP. Those are all operating expenses. And then on this page, I have the purchase transit vehicles, 5310 funds. So the bulk of admin mod 19, I've got 52 KYTC projects. Some of them are new, some of them are existing. The majority of them are updates resulting from the 6-year highway plan, the new 6-year highway plan. And so these projects, they're all submitted by our December 6th deadline that everyone got. And basically, once we had all the applications, I had to sort through and decide what could we do through an admin mod and what needed the attention of an amendment. And I talked a little bit about that, those 45 projects that we set aside for the amendment. The majority of them, however, we are able to do through this admin mod. And again, that full list is at the link in that QR code. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to number 20 now. This one's a little bit shorter. Let's see. So INDOT, we've got, looks like 5 projects. 2 of them are just tip funding updates, spaceships, open public dates. And then we are adding 3 additional new INDOT projects that we are able to use through our maintenance group category. These are all KYTC projects. A lot of them also were from the 6-year plan updates, but they took me a little bit longer to iron out some of the details. So I caught them up with admin mod 20 here. I think I've got 17 total. Any of the ones that you see with that 5-8 number, those indicate that they were from the legislative priority project updates, and some of them are not new projects. And then moving back over to TARP, here I've got the 5307 and the 5339 annual updates listed here. And that's all I've got. There's no action. If anyone has any questions or wants to look at my hard copies, feel free to let me know.
Any questions or comments for Chris?
Just like that amendment, these 2 admin mods are monsters also. It's a dynamic time in the skip the tip world right now. So appreciate your all's patience and the information and interactions with Chris. You know, it's but a summary up here, but there's lots of gory details that we need sometimes. And so appreciate everybody quick responses and communication with Chris and other KIPTA staff.
It's very
Thank you all
hard to
for the work.
summarize, but I wanted to do them all justice because they're important changes.
That's right.
Yeah, and we appreciate the hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, external grant opportunities, Elijah.
Just to continue the talk about discretionary grants, I've got 4 more here that I thought everyone would like to hear about. The first one is the Rural and Tribal Assistance Pilot Program from the Build America Bureau. Right now, they're making 10 million available over 5 years for states and LPAs. These can be used to support legal, technical, and financial advisors to help advance infrastructure projects. There is no required match. Up to 750K can be awarded at a time, and applications will be accepted through April 3rd. Next one is Protect. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Protect is to fund projects that address the climate crisis by improving the resilience of the surface transportation system, which includes highways, public transportation, ports, and intercity passenger rail. There is no maximum award size. There's a 20% local match, and applications will be accepted through February 24th. LPAs, transit authorities, and states are eligible. Next, we've got, you're probably familiar with, that's RAISE.
Quick question, Protect, is it capital funding, is it operational funding, or we need to go and research on that?
I can send you some info on that. Yeah,
Excellent, thank
yeah,
you very
I can
much.
give you some stuff that would clarify that.
It's a good question. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
the price range
Sounds
is on
interesting,
the,
transit is mentioned.
yeah, that's right.
I'll
Yeah.
send you an email with the full.
Thank you, Elijah.
Next is RAISE, that's Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. It's awarded on a competitive basis per statute for planning or constructing surface transportation infrastructure projects that will improve safety, mobility, quality of life, and economic competitiveness. The award is capped at 25 million. Urban projects must request a minimum of 5 million, and then rural projects must request a minimum of 1 million. Urban projects will require 20% match, and then rural projects will require no match. Applications will be accepted through January 30th, so it's pretty.
Hey, Elijah, before you go on,
Yeah.
Ethan, you want to speak about the one that KIPTA is going to be pursuing in the rural area? It's rural area, just to give you a sense of what we're seeking to do in Trimmer County.
Sure, we're doing one in Trimble County around Milton and Kentucky 36. It's a planning application. That's to improve that corridor, hopefully bring it up to standards for the truck network. There's a bridge that would need to be replaced and widened, as well as addressing a 90-degree turn. And that'll go into Carroll County as well. And so it's a multi-county project, but what we're applying for is a planning grant. And KYPC is also studying in that area, and maybe you can speak to the small area study. But that's what we're going after, and that the application is due next week. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some needs. Kentucky 36 is a road that is just inside Kentucky. And it runs along the Ohio River and is subject to flooding. It's also got a bunch of geometric issues where semis can't really drive on it to get, say, from Milton Madison to Carrollton. And we've had complaints for decades of trucks, say Walmart can't go from Milton directly to Carrollton on Kentucky 36. They got to drive all the way down to I-71 and back up. It's a 45-minute detour. So we recognize that that roadway needs some upgrading. The local leadership, Judge Ogburn in Trimble County has asked us to look at it. And so we started looking at it, and I think the opportunities, these once in a generation opportunities, and with this grant money like you're talking about, made it possible that, hey, maybe if there's, once again, we're starting with a planning effort, good planning study. If we can develop a scope of work that might translate well into a roadway project, then it will support your all's grant application. So really, it's really an important discussion to have, is that, the local government, the county government, and was working with KIPTA and very interested in, getting money and getting focus on this roadway. From the state DOT perspective, we always thought it was an important roadway to fix, but kind of far down on the list because it's a rural roadway. But what was neat is we had a lot of discussion back and forth between the state DOT, the local government, KIPTA, and really arrived at an approach to apply for money, maybe in steps, to get this roadway fixed up. And so the approach is going to be like, of course, the cabinet's doing a planning effort right now to look in detail, and simultaneously KIPTA in the county are going to apply for this planning grant. But their planning grant actually is for design dollars to move it to the next phase of work. And so the goal is that, hey, we can come out of this planning effort, know exactly what we need to build, and we might even have a source of money to start the design work. And maybe we can come back around in a year or two, apply for another grant for maybe construction dollars. So it was cool. To me, it was a really great example of coordinating between the state DOT and the local government to get a roadway project on track that might never see any money. So it's a cool story.
We're also reapplying for the Bedford raise grant from last year.
Yeah. So the rural ones, they're real competitive too, and there's no match, so that's probably why,
And Aida, on the Protect grant, that's for capital projects.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And I would just also say, in these applications, the more data we have, the better we can write these applications. And, in this application, we're using Safe Streets and road sprawl data from the safety action plans, and having that data, having those prioritized projects, that really helps us make a stronger application for these dollars. And so these other efforts are kind of working together to put together the best applications we can. And so I just wanted to throw that out there for Safe Street.
For those that didn't already know, Felicia and Dustin and Jennifer and Ethan, they love pursuing these grants. So if there's something that you and your county or city are interested in pursuing, they're really good at it. And we've been pretty successful. They've been pretty successful at it across the board. So don't be shy. Right.
Yep. And then the final one that I've got here is the Technology Transfer Program, the T2. This is established to support development of processes, systems, and resources used in the deployment and adoption of the FDA's innovative research results. Up to 5 million can be awarded. There's no required match. And then MPOs, LPAs, states, and transit authorities are eligible for this. Applications will be accepted through February 11th. And like Andy said, KIPTA staff are available to assist cities, counties, and local nonprofits with grant applications for community and economic development projects at no additional cost. Administrative fees are typically included in the grant budgets or as part of KIPTA's joint funding agreement and member dues. That goes for anything in transportation or says as well. So, thanks.
So Tom mentioned earlier, once in a generation funding, we don't know what's gonna happen in terms of all this discretionary grant funding in a couple of years' time. We know that the IIJA will expire. Fiscal 26 is the last year on that, if I'm not mistaken. So who knows what that means to discretionary grants? So it might mean get them while you can. That wouldn't be the craziest thing, but if that's a circumstance. Y'all may have seen that it sounds like at least temporarily a lot of the NEVI and the electric vehicle infrastructure stuff is kind of put on pause, at least for a little while. So we'll see what comes of that going forward. There aren't a whole lot of those in our region at risk, I guess, but there are certainly some through efforts in both states that we'll see.
The MPO director's report, Andy.
Yeah, I've got a few items here. You should have plenty of time. I want to recognize County Engineer Brian Dixon. Thank you for joining us. He joined us after the roll call, or right after the roll call, I think. And then Deputy Commissioner Tony McClellan of NDOT Seymour District. Tony, thank you for joining us today. So I'll recognize those gentlemen. I want to give a brief update on the ongoing efforts for the KIPTA's Federal Railroad Administration Corridor Identification Grant Program. I submitted just yesterday the what's called the Step 1 deliverables. They should be our final deliverables. There might be one bounce back and forth one more time from the FRA. But for those that don't know, this was the preliminary efforts to assess the viability of passenger rail returning from Louisville to Chicago. The grant that KIPTA was awarded was specifically focused on the Louisville to Indianapolis stretch, while NDOT is partnering with us in as much as in lots of ways, but one of the ways is they're covering the Indianapolis to Chicago, right? And so they've got an ongoing effort that's probably a couple months behind ours. So those will be the same stuff I submitted just yesterday. I think they're planning to submit maybe around March. That's my understanding. So that's submitted. Where we are with that, all the stuff we've done so far is very preliminary. The real fun, the real planning exercise comes in what's called Step 2. So we're effectively done through with Step 1 now. Step 2 is going to be a much larger effort. That's where you get into the real viability. Where might the stations be? What might the schedules be? How's it what improvements are needed to the railroad itself? What's been proposed for our Step 2? We've got commitments from a couple outside agencies. One is from Amtrak. Amtrak is committed to supporting our efforts in doing a lot of the operational analyses and some of the, which would come into some of the scheduling, some of the, let's say the equipment needs, et cetera. And then not just Amtrak, but also Louisville Indiana Railroad Company, LIRC. They are a short rail railroad. And they, in essence, they just go from Louisville to Indianapolis, and they've committed to assist as well through some of their operations. So that was good to get that those folks on board, pun intended, with that study. So we hope to start Step 2. The schedule that's part of the submittals. Right now, it's envisioning hopefully in August to start. We hope it could be sooner. But Step 1 didn't require any local match to the federal money. Step 2 does. And so where that local match comes from is still a bit of a question. We've got a few things in the hopper, so I think we'll get there. We just don't know quite when. It won't be tomorrow. It's probably going to be, let's say it's likely to be a fiscal year 26 thing where those funds come available, maybe not till July. So Lots more fun to come, probably starting around, this summertime. So it's good to get that first step behind us. As far as I know, there's only a few of these corridor grants that are ahead of us. It's a bit of a process getting it through the process, and that's okay. But ours is ahead of most of them in terms, as you might recall, there were a whole bunch of $500,000 grants that were awarded simultaneously, about a year or so ago. So that's all good news. Happy to answer any questions about that either now or offline later. A couple other things. I mentioned Greg was the new president of Kentucky Association of Government Communicators. Yours truly is now the chairman of the Kentucky MPO Council. So hopefully that will help be a stronger, more powerful voice for big city MPOs in Kentucky. With the new vice chair, I think that's something that she would like to pursue too, is getting a bigger voice for our region. The best we can in Frankfurt, never stopping on that front and making sure that.
Look at you guys.
Yeah, how about us? How about us?
Congratulations.
How about us? Still waiting for the pay raise. But
Where's your boss? He
Yeah,
left. He left, right? He knew that was coming.
yeah. And then last but not least, and one of them's here, one of them's not here. So I want to recognize our outgoing chair and vice chair. So Mr. Griffey, thank you for being here. Of all the folks here that participate in TTC and TPC, you're one of the most reliable. And I appreciate you being here today, especially on short notice, and always willing to volunteer and step up in the county's efforts. So
I appreciate everything you guys do.
and then we will recognize Mayor Chapman next month. Like I said, his wife had to be with the doctor this afternoon, so he needed to be with her, and that's where he truly needed to be. And so we'll see him next month and be sure to recognize him then at February TPC. And that concludes the MPO directors.
All right. Thank you, sir. Again, congratulations to both of you guys.
I think.
Yeah. Is there any other business to be brought forward? Anything else? I thought there was a hand going up, but there's not. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
I'll second.
I still see a second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Great. Thank you all. See y'all in a little bit.